That's all, folks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Happy Liberation Day. Happy Monday. And I'm running a couple minutes late. I've been having some, believe it or not, technical issues. Gee, who would imagine that? Friday, if you guys recall, and I had actually forgotten that Friday I was having some technical issues and I thought I had everything fixed. And then I logged in this morning. I'm like, wait a minute. It's not working. So I apologize. What a way to start the morning. But you know what? What a fantastic day this is going to be. Good morning, Allison. I can't begin to tell you, and I know you guys are right there with me, how exciting today is. You guys probably can't tell my shirt, but it's blue and it has these little star shaped sequins on it. I thought, I'm not going to the inauguration. Unfortunately, I'm here at home, but hey, I'm going to celebrate to myself and with all of you guys, of course. And it is. It's Liberation Day. Think about it this way. It's Liberation Day. We have fought and we have battled and we won. And whether you know it or not, whether you understand this part of the concept or not, we did win. And it was more than winning an election. We defeated the regime that has been running this country for decades. And it is going to go down in history. It's going to be written in the history books. It's going to be talked about forever. And we were part of this amazing, momentous occasion. And thank you, Allison. Glesna, good morning. Glesna from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. You're probably pretty darn cold up there. Good morning, Joe. And yeah, I mean, good morning, Tara. And it is so wonderful, Tara. I agree to have the adults back in charge. Good morning, Linda. And Linda, you're like me. I'm happy to watch from home. And I'm been kind of jealous looking at the celebrations going on in Washington D.C. despite the cold weather. I've been out for lesser things in colder weather and I was perfectly fine, but I really do worry. Anytime we have a situation when it comes to defeating the regime, not Democrats, it's a regime. It is a regime, and we beat them, and they're not happy about it. And you just can't trust anything they might do. And I feel like I'm better served to be able to be from afar and talking about it versus being there, and hopefully everything will go smooth. But I'll tell you, I was really jealous watching all of the people in the parade. Good morning, Tammy Jerry Hoover. Good morning, Phyllis. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Genevieve. This is all just such a happy occasion for all of us, the start of the golden age. And I know there's a lot of people out there. I know a lot of people who are Democrats who are very apprehensive about Trump coming into president. Some of them they can't come to terms with it at all. Other ones are kind of like, what, we'll wait and we'll see what happens. But I get it. If we were standing here today and it was Kamala Harris who is going to be inaugurated today, this would be obviously a completely different type of show. I don't even know if I would have had a show. I would have had my flag turned upside down and probably just played a show looking at that. I get where they're coming from when the person you really wanted to win doesn't win, and then the guy you don't like, is being inaugurated. It's a tough day, but I hope all of those people will realize in time this is really the best for our country. It's the best for them. It's the best for future generations. And, all I can say is thank God this has happened. Thank God. And, it was a battle we all fought together. And it doesn't matter if it was because you were sharing information on social media or telling your friends or praying or actively going out getting votes. None of that matters. All that matters is that we were all part of the same team and we won. And we're going to learn as time goes on. It's so much more than an election. We watch videos, we see uprisings in other countries. We see how hard, some people fight, losing their lives in other countries to end oppression, to free themselves, to free their fellow countrymen. And I don't even think a lot of people in America realize that we haven't been free. We've been far from free. And it's kind of interesting that some Democrats have kind of woken up a little bit, especially some younger folks when TikTok was banned. I don't use TikTok. I have an account. I may start using it, but I haven't been using it as of yet. I don't know why. I guess I don't do a lot of video clips and that type of thing, so there's not really much use of it for me, but maybe I'll start. Joe says regime is made up of Republicans and Democrats. You're absolutely correct, Joe. The most of Congress is part of the deep state. Most of them are part of the problem, because I'll tell you, there's probably maybe five, maybe between 5 and 10. I don't even know if there's that many who are actually on our side. The rest of them are all enemies. They're just as bad as what we call Democrats. They're all part of the same party, as George Carlin said. They're all part of the same club, and we ain't in it. But you know what? We are now. Now we are the club, and they aren't in it. And we have to constantly remind ourselves. I'm so glad people are waking up and seeing that we are the majority, because we really are the majority. Record crowds in Washington, D.C. for the rally last night. I haven't heard of any incidents that took place. Now, I may have missed something, but I haven't heard about anything. Security was very tight. I'm not going to play it here, but I watched a video of the former Prime Minister of Poland, who was trying, he was in Washington, D.C., he was trying to get into the festivities, and it was so tight that they wouldn't even let him in because he didn't have the proper identification, and he was trying to show them his Wikipedia account so they could look at the photo and say, oh, gee, that's actually him. So it was pretty interesting how tight security was. I know some people who were in DC, they weren't able to make it into some of the festivities last night. Hopefully today will be another story. Of course, the inauguration taking place, the official inauguration ceremony today at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. I plan on watching. I'm sure you do too. I have to work today, but you know what? I work every day, but I'm going to be working and watching. That's all we can do, is do our best to make sure we see what's going on. But I think some Democrats are kind of waking up. I saw a lot of posts last night from some very liberal folks who were very upset about TikTok being banned. And then they came to the realization that, gee, TikTok was opened again, because you know what? It affected their monetization. There's a lot of young liberals and conservatives too, but a lot of young liberals who monetize their content over on TikTok. Some of these people are seriously making millions of dollars a year. And all of a sudden, because of the Biden administration, that money instantly went away. And a lot of them, I saw them posting and making videos. It's probably the most I've been on TikTok in a long time. And I saw that they were all saying, oh, maybe we need to give Donald Trump a try because he did this for us. Now we can get back to TikTok and posting our videos and earning our money. But that's how you win, isn't it? That's how you win the younger folks. And part of the reason why Donald Trump, of course, this is a two-parter. Part of the reason Donald Trump wanted TikTok to come back is, well, I should say a three-parter. A, because we should have the freedom to choose. We are Americans. We should have the freedom to choose. This isn't communist China. Even China isn't communist China anymore. And I'll get to that, because that's another big wake-up point of banning TikTok, is people got to see what's really going on in China. Some of us already knew, others didn't. And so part one of that was, of course, we are Americans. We are free. We should be able to choose what platform, and especially Donald Trump. Remember how popular Parler was? And then Parler, all of a sudden, they colluded together and they got rid of Parler. And it's not right. We as Americans should be able to choose. Good for us or not, doesn't matter. We should be able to choose. Even Robert Kennedy Jr. said the same thing that we have been saying for quite some time, and that is, hey, he said, he goes, you should be more fearful of the CIA than China. We talked about that last week. Absolutely so. Be fearful of your own government. Don't worry about China. That's a lot of propaganda, quite honestly, about China. Now, the number two reason is because Donald Trump is a businessman. That's why we wanted him, isn't it? That's why we elected him even the first time, because he's a businessman. He's going to run this country like the business, like the corporation that it is. And it is a corporation. And so, therefore, he saw this as a business opportunity. And he thought, you know what? Yeah, we'll keep TikTok around, but we're going to own 50% of it. TikTok brings in billions of dollars. We need money. And I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit, but we are pretty much a bankrupt company. And so and I did mean company. That wasn't a misspeak. I did mean company. We are pretty much bankrupt. And so we need that extra money. So hopefully China will agree to give us 50% of the company of TikTok, that is, and that we can share in that profit as we should. And the third reason, of course, is that Trump. I forgot the third reason. I had a third reason. I just don't remember what it was. I don't know. My brain's all over the place today. Sorry about that. Allison, Jamie Allman is in DC with his beautiful daughter. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Gosh, isn't that terrible? I know there was three reasons why Donald Trump brought TikTok back. And for the life of me, I know what it was. The third reason is because he had a lot of supporters on TikTok. I knew I would remember. And he does believe that the part of the reason why he won this term is because of the reach he had on TikTok amongst these young users on TikTok. A lot of people who would not normally have voted conservative or voted for Donald Trump did, because they were exposed to him, to his policies. And a lot of them woke up. Good morning, Sherry. Thank you for watching from the X platform. And Allison, I know you said Jamie Allman's in DC. I haven't caught up to his post yet, but I'm going to do that. I wish I were there too, celebrating. It was really hard for me to not be there, because I feel like we should all be there and we should all be celebrating. But at the same time, I am a little bit fearful. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a little bit fearful of what may happen there. I just don't know. There's a lot going on, and I don't trust our own government. I don't trust terrorists. I don't trust a lot of things. And we know there's a lot of terror threats taking place right now, from different groups of people. And we'll certainly be getting into that, because there's a lot of things to talk about today. Oh, you're so right, Glesna. You are so right. Opening up all those sealed documents. You better believe it. Michelle, I'm telling you, Michelle, I would love to be there. I really would. I kept thinking, I could wear, I have so much Patriot wear that I could wear. I've got jewelry and fingernails and shirts. I got all kinds of stuff, shoes with stars and stuff on them. It would have been absolutely right up my alley. But I have to think about other things, and that is that my son's already lost his father. He doesn't need to lose his mother too, due to whatever could potentially take place in Washington, D.C. Joe says TikTok is a free speech platform. Yes, he's got 40% of the youth, while Romney got a negative 30%. Yeah, and I might start utilizing TikTok a little bit more. I don't use it, but it does serve a good purpose. I do think, and anytime we're offered free voice, we absolutely should. Something that came out of the TikTok ban, I don't know how much any of you have heard about this, but there were a lot of younger liberals who kind of woke up to the fact that maybe we in the United States, we are the repressed people, because everyone went over. I think was it called Red Note? I know a lot of those people went over to a different platform, which is also a Chinese platform. And this platform that everybody kind of migrated over to, it was a situation where they were actually talking to people from China and seeing videos, real videos, of how people live and how their economy is. And they learned a lot of very valuable lessons. And I've seen a few videos on that where some of these young people were like, seriously, our government has told us that China is very restricted and how they're a communist country, how the people can't do anything. And these people are living a pretty good darn life over there. Now, they weren't during COVID, during the lockdowns, but people, were talking about how they can spend $20. I don't know if it was a week or a month. I don't remember, for groceries, how they can live in a home for free for 70 years. Now, I'm going to backtrack on that, because if you remember Kasha Staki a friend of mine and a guest of ours from a different show, several different shows actually, and she would talk about how she lived in communist Poland. And in communist Poland, it was the same thing. You were given an apartment or even a summer house, but you didn't own it. It still belonged to the government. So I'm not ready to trade places with the Chinese quite yet. But I will tell you, I have learned, and yes, Joe, it is okay, it is red note. I have learned that the government has lied to us for a very long time about Russia for sure and about China. And Donald Trump is making amends with China. He and President Xi, of course, Chinese President Xi, they're going to have a lot of things to talk about. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. Bob says you don't need a preemptive pardon if you didn't commit a crime. Biden actually just removed any doubt that crimes were committed and forever entered their names into the category of the disgraced. Bob, I was going to get to that in a little bit, but you know what? We will just talk about it now. And I'll tell you what, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. As a matter of fact, yesterday I checked the news a couple of different times thinking, have I missed something? Because I really expected Biden to have more pardons. And then I thought, well, there's a lot of talk out there that he's, pretty well checked out. And by the way, it's not Joe Biden pardoning anyone. And we're going to talk about that because Joe Biden has not been running the show for a very long time, at least a year. And I'm going to give you some proof of that. But I'll tell you what, it's not Joe Biden making these pardons. But either way, you're right, though, Bob, in stating that if they weren't guilty, they wouldn't need a pardon. And of course, Democrats claim, oh, well, Trump's going to, he's going to just arrest everyone. Well, you know what? You can't arrest and convict people if they didn't do anything wrong, right? If they didn't do anything wrong, you would have nothing to fear. I've not done anything wrong. If somebody said, oh, I'm going to offer you a pardon, I'd be like, for what? I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to pardon me for. And, they can investigate me, they can turn over every rock, but they're not going to find anything. But that's not the case, with these people. Of course, and I'm sure most of you have already heard, Biden's last minute pardons. I heard about it early this morning. Dr. Fauci, no surprise there. General Mark Milley, no surprise there. And there was a few. Who else was it? I've got it written down here somewhere. Of course, the entire House committee for J6 and Liz Cheney amongst them, from what I understand. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Allison says he has until 11 a.m. today, probably more pardons to come. I think so too, because he hasn't pardoned himself yet, or his brother, who we believe are part of the, of course, Biden crime family. There's a lot of folks he hasn't pardoned, a lot of folks, and I could see it possibly coming. And Robert, yes, Milley as well. And yes, the entire J6 committee, and I'm assuming obviously that means Liz Cheney. Unbelievable, isn't it? It is just absolutely unbelievable. And not only that, but just the entire list of pardons. And it's not Joe Biden making these pardons. And that's probably why there's been no pardon yet for Joe Biden, because it's not him making the pardons. It's going to be, he's going to be the fall guy for them all. And Robert, I've not seen a pardon yet for Obama. Will there be one? There's a lot of talk about Obama lately. I've been looking it up, trying to get some research done, trying to figure out what exactly is going on. We have all these pardons, and I kept thinking, will there be one for Obama? Because I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see one before time is up, but it depends, because there's a lot of people who and I'm going to get to that when I start talking about why we now know that Joe Biden has not been the acting president. There's a lot of people who are involved, and believe it or not, Obama's name wasn't one of the ones that I heard, although we know that Obama is part of the deep state. And I'm sure he is one of the advisors, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of talk right now. Good morning, Cindy Giordano. There's a lot of talk right now about Michelle and Barack not being together any longer. The rumors have been going around for a long time. And when you start seeing rumors from a lot of different places, you start think, okay, where there's smoke, there's fire. What's happening? She didn't attend. Michelle Obama didn't attend Jimmy Carter's funeral, from what I understand. I didn't watch it. I don't know. But that's what I read, and she obviously was not set to attend Donald Trump's inauguration. I didn't really think too much of that by itself. Good morning, Karen. I didn't think too much about Michelle not attending Trump's inauguration. Trump didn't attend Joe Biden's inauguration. So there's nothing really too crazy about that. But Barack Obama, is planning to attend the inauguration. Now, he and Bill Clinton and the others, they're not going to the luncheon, which is customary, but not, a huge deal. But why wouldn't Michelle be going if Obama's going? Well, I did hear and have read reports that in 2016, when Michelle did attend the inauguration, that she felt physically ill because she was there, because she really cannot stand Donald Trump. And she claims that she got onto, the plane to leave. And when she did, she was just sick to her stomach and cried. And, just the tension from having to be there. It's just a terrible, stressful event. So who knows? Good morning, Rob. Who knows, what's going on. But there's a lot of people who think they're not together again. So I've been doing some research, and I actually meant to talk about this a couple days ago. Well, about 2 weeks ago. And I didn't because there's just so many other things to talk about. And we know all this stuff that's going down with P. Diddy right now. So there's a lot of stories out there that Obama somehow got tied up into one of these P. Diddy parties, and that there's video of him that's being shopped around. And if you guys remember, one of the stories I talked about is that allegedly there is someone who is going out and shopping around P. Diddy's videos. And what they're doing is they're contacting the manager. Let's just say, as an example, Beyonce, just because she's been tied in. And I'm not saying this is about her. I'm just throwing her name in there just because she's married to Jay-Z, and they've been heavily involved in the talk and discussion about P. Diddy. So let's just say that there's a video of Beyonce doing something less than flattering. Well, these people, whoever they are contacting, let's say, her agent and saying, hey, we got this video of one of your top performers doing something they shouldn't be doing. And if you don't pay us X amount of dollars, we're going to release it to the world. And so that's extortion. And from what I understand, it's been happening a lot. And I read that this is what's happening to Barack Obama. Now, it's hearsay. It absolutely may not be true. It absolutely may be true. I don't know. And if it is true, I could see where maybe Michelle might be a little upset about that, if it's true. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, quite honestly. And then there's also a lot of talk about, remember Obama's chef? I don't recall his name. And it was that situation in Martha's Vineyard where Obama's longtime chef was vacationing in Martha's Vineyard. Well, I think it was Martha Vineyard. And he was staying at Obama's home. And we still don't know all of the details. He did drown in like 3 feet of water, 4 feet of water, something along those lines. They were on those boards that I kind of like a surfboard that you stand on. And I know there's a term for that for the life of me right now. I don't remember what it was. And the way that, it was reported is that the chef was there with someone, but we don't know who that person was. And as far as I know, they've never told us who that person was. And that he fell off of his surfboard, walkboard, whatever those things are called, and he fell into the water and somehow he drowned. And the rumor, now that part's true, that part's fact. The rumor is that he was actually staying at the house with Barack Obama, and that Barack Obama was the person who called and was trying to explain to his attorneys what had took place, and he was very shaken up. People who were allegedly whistleblowers, witnesses at the scene, said that he was wet. It appeared that he was maybe the person that was in the water with the chef. I don't know. Paddleboard. Thank you so much, Joe. Paddleboard. And thank you, Scott. Paddleboard. I don't know why I couldn't. My words are off today. I have not had a stroke, but I might seem like it sometimes. But anyway, so there's a lot of talk that maybe Michelle was upset over that situation because, if that is true, either situation is true with P. Diddy or with the chef, that's pretty stupid. That's pretty dumb. And I think the way Michelle Obama would look at it, less about betrayal, because she got into this marriage. She probably knows what person he is, and more about, what, you have to stop being dumb because we're in the public eye. don't run around with your male lover. Whatever the situation was, even if it was an accident or wasn't an accident, don't get caught up in this ridiculousness. And same with the P. Diddy party. So who knows? And Allison, it was a total cover up. I don't know who they were trying to protect, but they were trying to protect someone because all of the details of that situation have never come out. And I've looked, they've never come out. We still don't know the details. And I've heard, again, rumor that the chef's wife was kind of outspoken about what she thought and kind of ties back into the other rumor. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, but maybe things are a little rocky. Maybe not. Maybe she just hates Trump more than Barack does because they seem pretty darn friendly in that video. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Looks can be deceiving. Robert says, did Cohen, little puppy, I call him puppy dog, did Michael Cohen get a pardon? He was begging. I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't. He doesn't deserve one. I can't stand that guy. He reminds me of Underdog, his little droopy, sad eyes. I don't even know how Trump ever trusted him to begin with, quite honestly. I really don't. And somebody said, oh, we just got sick of watching Biden being sworn in. Isn't that the truth? But you know what? Biden is out the door. I was thinking yesterday about how funny it was. You guys probably remember back when, after the inauguration in 2020, typically what happens is that after the inauguration, they have the procession where the incoming president walks over to the formal residence at the White House, and the outgoing president and his first lady welcome them in. They walk across the threshold, they go and get a little tour of the house, etc. Well, that didn't happen. Trump checked out early. He didn't go to the inauguration. He had moved out. He was gone. He had exited the White House. He was not there, to meet with Biden. And the doors were locked. Do you remember that? They had a film crew coming with them. They walked up to the front doors and they couldn't get in. The doors were locked. There was no one there to greet them. And it was the craziest situation. And I've played that video 1,000 different times because it's just so crazy to even think that could happen. Because, there's a lot of preparations that go into inauguration. And you can't tell me that there wasn't somebody from Biden's team already at the White House preparing for them to walk and meet somebody and go in the door. But yet they couldn't get in the door. The door was locked. And they stand in front, very anxious and awkward, just standing there in front of the press like, gee, we don't want to tell anyone the door's locked and we can't get in. So let's just stand here a little while longer. Well, eventually someone did go in and they did open the door for them. And alone, they crossed that threshold and went into the White House. It's ridiculous. And so we'll see how things go. We'll see how things go. It'll be interesting today to see if Biden and Jill are there at the White House to greet Trump, Donald, and of course, Melania back into the White House. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I think Biden is probably beside himself at this point, wondering, because he doesn't know what's going on. Poor guy. It's elder abuse. And Joe says that's because Biden stole the election and Trump just let him pretend to be president for 4 years to help wake up the people. There's a lot of talk about a lot of things, Joe. And I'll tell you, a lot of people were talking about how Air Force One picked Donald Trump up in Florida and brought him to Washington, D.C. And now I don't know. I didn't go in and check to see what has happened in prior years. There were plenty of journalists doing that fact checking for me, so I didn't do it. But people were saying that is not normal, that you are not allowed to fly on Air Force One until after the inauguration. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know the story either way. But there were some journalists talking about pointing that out, that, gee, I wonder why Air Force One is picking up Donald Trump and he's not even inaugurated yet. But this has been the strangest transition I think we've ever been through. Good morning, Nancy. I think it's a very strange transition of power because, Trump has been calling the shots for a while now. As soon as he knew he won, didn't even have to wait for the certification. He started already acting basically like president. And you know why I think he could get away with doing that? Because everyone except for us Americans knew. We thought we knew, we didn't have the validation that there was no one running the White House. There was no one there. Joe Biden wasn't there. He wasn't doing a darn thing. And I'm going to show you that here shortly. He wasn't there. So I think it was very easy for Trump to pick up the reins and say, hey, you know, I may not be inaugurated yet, but you know what? There is no acting president of the United States. So maybe somebody needs to do something. Good morning, Eddie. Tara says maybe due to the elevated security risk. And that could be, Tara. It could be. There is certainly an elevated security risk. No question about that. And Robert says, heard the same thing. Call signs on the plane are a thing. Yes. Yeah, it was, and there's video. I mean, it's pretty interesting to see, you know, how everything's playing out. And of course, Donald Trump, he's been making presidential decisions for quite some time now, hasn't he? You know, the border wall is already being rebuilt. That started a couple weeks ago. They already started putting the wall back up. They didn't have to wait for the inauguration to do that. They've already began constructing a holding facility in Texas for these mass deportations, which are going to happen this week, by the way. They are going to happen this week. And we're certainly going to talk about that. And Trump, obviously, you know, talking to Putin, talking to all of these different world leaders prior to the inauguration, there's no question, no one can doubt it, that it was Donald Trump who negotiated the hostage release and the ceasefire between Israel and the Hamas. We saw the 3 young ladies being released. They were held for what? Was it 357 days, 367 days, something like that? Good morning, Colonel Joe Adams. The sky is blue today. You got that right. A beautiful blue sky today. And let's see here. Joe says if Trump didn't wait for 4 years, he would have had a repeat of the first term. He needed to wake people up. And these past 4 years did that. Well, you know, they did for some, and maybe for, I think, when we are certainly the majority. I don't think it woke everybody up, but you know what? Their day is coming. Allison said they had special vehicles that brought him to Air Force One that had special jamming devices on the top for drones or missiles. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that, Allison, here shortly, because we're going to talk about the unprecedented security, you know, situation that's taking place. You know, 25,000 police officers, it's crazy, being sworn in. Well, we're going to get to that. But, you know, think about all the things that Donald Trump has done before Inauguration Day. Not only working out that ceasefire, which I don't expect that ceasefire to last, by the way. And if any of you were, you know, watching any news this weekend, you will see that when these 3 female hostages were released back to, you know, Israeli custody, there were Hamas folks out riding around in their trucks with their weapons and their uniforms. And people were like, oh my God, you know, Netanyahu can't agree to that because there are still Hamas members still alive. Well, let me tell you something. You cannot get rid of Hamas. You can't get rid of ISIS or Al Qaeda or any of these other groups. You cannot get rid of them. It is only possible in one way, and that would be to kill every last person. And you can't do that, clearly. Now, Israel would like to. They would like to. But even then, they wouldn't get rid of them. Because I'll tell you what, every time you kill someone, let's say a Hamas leader or a Hamas militant or an ISIS leader or a ISIS militant, and I'm not grouping ISIS and Hamas together either, very different types of groups. But anytime you kill someone, well, guess what? There's a bazillion people to take their place. And every time you kill one person, 10 more line up because they just become more angry and more hateful. And that is how radicalization begins and grows. You can't wipe out Hamas. It's not going to happen. And so they're not going to cease to exist. And because they're not going to cease to exist, I don't think this ceasefire it's going to last. You know, I don't see it happening. I think that hopefully Trump worked out a deal where he said, hey, you know, let's do it as long as we can. You know, then you guys, let's get the hostages back. Then if you guys want to go back to fighting and trying to kill each other, then so be it. But let's first get the hostages back. And Jay says, I don't think they want it to last. I don't either, really. And let's see here. Oh, I didn't realize, Allison, it's Deanna Adams' birthday. Happy birthday to you, Deanna. And I'm trying my hardest not to cough. It's going to happen sooner or later. Sorry about that. I've been up coughing and sneezing since 3 a.m. So who knows what's coming my way. But, I wanted to jump into that. The other thing Trump did before the inauguration is that he also is working out a deal between Ukraine and Russia. And we've talked about that in the show for quite some time, that the most obvious plan was to allow Russia to keep what they've already liberated, allow Ukraine to go back and do their thing. They're going to have an election once the ceasefire between those two groups happen. Zelensky will be out. So we finally kind of got that confirmation yesterday that is probably the agreed upon terms, that Russia will keep the areas they've already liberated. Ukraine will not become part of NATO, and Zelensky will likely be replaced in the next election. So those are all some things to look out for. But I do think it's interesting that Donald Trump has taken the reins so far before the inauguration. And I think it's caught a lot of Democrats off, a little surprised, because I saw a couple of Democrats posting on social media, oh, look what Biden did. He got the hostages released. And other Democrats were stepping up and saying, no, I don't like Trump, but that was actually something he did. Trump did that, not Biden. And they gave him a little bit of credit for that. But then people are like, well, why is he doing that? He's not even inaugurated yet, but that's because, why? That is because Joe Biden has not been an active member in the White House for a very long time. Joe says the deep state is in control of Ukraine since we took over in 2014. You've got that right. They're over there. This whole battle, it's kind of crazy because, foreign news, they're already saying Russia won. It's over. Russia won. And because Russia won, they're talking more about these different secrets, and we'll find out, because as we know, we're in just a bit, we're going to talk about some of the 200 plus executive orders to be signed. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the secrets that Obama is going to reveal. We're going to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy, because allegedly he's no longer part of the DOGE department. And so we're going to get into that also. But first, what I really want to talk about, because when I saw this interview with Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, I was like, what is he talking about? And then I was angry, because here he's telling us, I'm going to play the video for you here in a second. He's telling us that, gee, me, Speaker of the House, or, I don't recall the term he had at the time. We'll listen to the video in a second. He's like, I'm second in line to the president. And here I'm calling, trying to get meetings, because we have some very serious things taking place in our country, and we have to talk. I have to talk to the president, but he's not taking my calls. And so this goes on for a period of months, I think maybe 6 months. We'll hear in the video in a second, and where Mike Johnson saying he's not taking my phone calls. So why is he not taking my phone calls? Finally, he leaks the information to the Wall Street Journal. And as you probably know, most recently, the Wall Street Journal, which, by the way, that article got very little attention. I don't even think most people know about it. We talked about it here, but I haven't heard it being discussed, really across multiple platforms or through multiple people. But the Wall Street Journal did, on his behalf, they did conduct an investigation, because he went to the press corps and said, what's happening? Why can't I meet, with Joe Biden? And when they did the investigation, they said, gee, well, we found out that Biden's not actually running the show. His advisors are. But I want you to hear it from him himself, because you know what? We can sit here and we can talk about it, and we have talked about it. We all know that Joe Biden has not been an active president, that he has not been the one calling the shots, making the decisions, or anything else. I don't even know if he have the capability of signing on the dotted line. But now we have validation that he, in fact, has not been making decisions. He, in fact, in my opinion, has not been the president. The CIA has been running the show. Let's take a look
and
here.
I say this without any personal animus at all. I mean, in some ways, I actually kind of feel sorry for Joe Biden. I mean, he's in the twilight years of his life. He is not, obviously, has not been in charge for some time. And I know this by personal observation, and now the whole world knows it. And it's been very, very concerning to me over the last, year and a half since I've had this
Can you
position.
tell us a story when you say personal observation? What kind
Well, I
of thing
mean,
did you see?
it's public now because the Wall Street Journal got it and put it on the front page. But January a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I had been asked. I became speaker in October 2023, and there were all sorts of big national security concerns and everything going on. And I started requesting a meeting with the president because, you know, I'm kind of old school. I'm a constitutional law guy. The Speaker of the House should be able to talk to the president, especially in times of great national interest and calamity. But they wouldn't let me meet with him, and his staff kept giving me excuses. This went on for like 8 or 9 weeks. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, he doesn't have time. What are you talking about? I'm second in line of the presidency. He has time. I need to talk to him. We had, I can't say the classified parts, but we had some big national concerns at the time that I was losing sleep over. Finally, I just went to the Hill Press Corps and I said, the president is not being allowed to meet with the speaker. There's a problem. So they started putting pressure on him. Long story short, they finally relented. They invited me to the White House. I show up and I realize it's actually an ambush because it's not just me and the president. It's also Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem, you know, the CIA director, everybody. And then, so I walked in the Oval and, I know what this is. They're going to hotbox the speaker on Ukraine funding. That's what it was. This is probably third week of January. We sit down, we're in the midst of it, and the whole conversation, and I'm going, we don't need to have this conversation. The president reaches over just like this. We're sitting right next to the fireplace in the Oval, and he grabs my arm and he says, the speaker and I just need a couple minutes together. Would y'all just leave us alone? And I looked up on the faces of some of the staff standing around the wall, and they're like, oh, no, he did it. So he called it. He's the commander-in-chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office, right over the rug by that coffee table. And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard, and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
He didn't know. And I hope you guys listen to that very carefully. And I hope you share that part, at least, of the show with other people, because we, the American people, have been scammed. Now, we've known this all along. He's not telling us anything we don't already know, right? But this is the validation we've been looking for. And what really upsets me and why I'm even more angry about this is because even though we knew, we all said all along, and I can't tell you how many times I shouted it from the show, is we know Congress knows. Why aren't they speaking up? Why aren't they doing something about this? He should have been considered incompetent a long time ago. And here we have our Speaker of the House telling us, long after it happened, what he encountered. And yes, he did talk to the Wall Street Journal, and maybe that's his way of getting the information out to the people. But then, you know what? All that happened was social media suppressed the articles. And, in the Wall Street Journal, you have to be a subscriber to even read their articles. And people just didn't largely talk about it. I talked about it here, but not to the degree where, unless you're listening to my show, you're not going to hear that information. But, it's so frustrating to me that they have really played us. And we knew they have really played us. And what I want to know is, what are we going to do about it? Because yes, Donald Trump might be our president now. He should have been all along. And, but that's not good enough for me. I feel like we should have some retribution here, that we should hold somebody accountable. that here we, the people, were told that Joe Biden is our president, that these are his laws, his executive orders. He doesn't know. We all knew he didn't know, but we have that validation. And so, what are they going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And I'm telling you, we need to do something. We need to hold them liable. And I don't care if it's every single member of Congress. We need to hold them liable for lying to us. It's all a sham. Every last bit of it has been a sham. And every executive order and every piece of legislature that was written during Biden's time should all have to be undone. It should all have to go back. There should be lawsuits. There should be prison time. There should be certainly convictions, obviously. And none of that, of course, will ever happen. But I don't, am I the only person who's angry about this? Even though we all knew, they told us we were crazy. Remember, they told us we were lying. If we talked about it on social media, they blasted us. And remember how we used to all joke? This is how crazy things in our country are, that we actually joked about how many Bidens there were. Remember, there was the tall guy. He had real tall and thin, and he had the butt that was really high up. Because I remember when I'd see him, I'm like, nah, that's not Biden. I don't know who that guy is. Then we had the guy on the bicycle that was definitely not Biden. He had those really young legs. Remember that? We knew that wasn't Biden. And, he was just, of course, Biden was probably the one that actually fell off the bicycle. Why? Why are we putting up with this? Why did we put up with it? I think that they tell us, they gaslight us and tell us we're crazy. And that it's crazy to think that they're dressing some guy up, a body double, to look like Biden because Biden can't really function. But it was true. It was true as much as I know it was true. And, we put up with it because they kept telling us that we were wrong. And really, what can we do? But we need to hold Congress liable. It's my opinion that every single member of Congress up until today should all be voted out. Every last one of them. And there are plenty of members of Congress that I really like. However, where were those people? Why weren't they shouting it from the rooftops that Joe Biden is not the person signing these executive orders? Maybe they didn't know. Hello, Scott. Maybe they didn't know. Good morning, Stacy. I don't know. Maybe they didn't know. Good morning, Ryan. And Ryan says, when this all comes out, is everything Biden did voided? It should be, including these pardons. It should be, but who's going to hold them accountable? The only thing we can do is contact our representatives, whoever it is that represents your area in Congress. I would demand answers. I would be calling them. I would be writing them. I would demand the answers. Why didn't you tell us this was going on? Because I can guarantee you, if we knew it, they knew it. They knew. They knew. You'll never convince me that they didn't know. And it's very upsetting. Dottie says, you still feel uneasy. It's two wings of the same bird. And I don't feel uneasy with Donald Trump. I know things are going to change. I see things changing already. Now, some of it is political. Some of it is Donald Trump having to be the politician because that's the role he's in right now. Some of it is going to be to say, hey, screw you, Democrats. We're going to overturn everything you've done. But I do think that everything that happened under the Biden administration, I think it should all be voided. We should go back to the drawing board, and every single member of Congress that was culpable for lying to the American people, they all need to go. Let's wipe the slate clean and start all over again, because these people lied to us by omission. They knew that Joe Biden was not writing these executive orders. They knew it. They knew, and what's even crazier is Jill Biden. Jill, I'm very disappointed in Jill. I always was, because I always considered it to be elder abuse. This woman knew that her husband was not signing these executive orders. She knew. She should be tried with treason, as should all of these other people. All of these people who were making these decisions for Joe Biden when he wasn't able to make these decisions, they should all be tried for treason. All of them. I'm so upset about it. I hope that the rest of you are as upset as I am about it, because it is treason. They did this against the American people. Good morning, Charles. Drain the swamp. That's one of the executive orders. Paul, Jill was all about the money, all about the money, all about the legacy, all about the status of being first lady. And I'm a constitutionalist. I am. I believe in upholding the Constitution, but I'm about tired. I'm really about tired of Congress and the office of the president. People, seeing it as a status. Oh, I want to be the first lady. I get it, but you know what? It's not about you, Jill. It's about us, the people, and they should all be tried for treason. They should all be hung in the town square, as far as I'm concerned, and that includes a lot of members of Congress that stood by. And to me, if this happened, many years ago, they would have all been tried for treason. There's no question about it, and nothing will happen. Absolutely nothing will happen. Nothing has happened. You heard Speaker Mike Johnson talking about this. What has happened since then? Oh, they wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal just a couple weeks ago. And oh, that's good enough. It's not good enough for me. Absolutely not good enough for me. And I am just I don't even know how to tell you how upset I am about this whole situation. Even though we already knew it was going on, we have that validation, and now something needs to happen. So I hope that you guys all take some time out of your day, and today, tomorrow, whenever, it doesn't even really matter. Take some time out and let your Congress member know that you know that they knew. And we need to start talking to some people about how do we go back over these 4 years and and convict some of these folks. And you know what? Maybe Donald Trump is way ahead of us. Maybe this is already something on his agenda, because he is going to write. I had heard originally 100 executive orders. Now it's 200 plus executive orders. Maybe Donald Trump, and maybe that's why he's been closer to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Maybe Donald Trump knew that Johnson spoke to the Wall Street Journal and was trying to get some validation for us all. Good morning, Daryl. Because I'll tell you, after listening to that video, and if anyone who's just joining the show, you can go back at the end of the show and go back and listen to that video if you don't listen to anything else. That Speaker Mike Johnson talking about how Joe Biden, he spoke to him. He had no idea that he signed an executive order because he didn't sign it. They lied to him. They lied to him. Either it wasn't a signature at all, or he signed a document that he didn't understand. One or the other. Either way, it is treason. He is not the acting president. He has not been the acting president. And we all need to do something about it. What that will be, I don't know, but man, I'm mad. And Paul says the best way to see who on both sides is corrupt, look and see who bought Meta stock, yes, recently, and who voted to get rid of TikTok. It will surprise you all. I would probably agree with you on that, Paul. There's a lot of information going on. And, and Donald Trump, like I said, 200 plus executive orders to be written. I'm assuming that will be today. I don't really know what the schedule of events are today, but I know that that's what Joe Biden did. He, after the inauguration, he went over to the White House. Eventually somebody let him in after the doors were locked. He sat down with a big stack. Remember what's so funny about that is we joked about it at the time, but now that we hear these stories, I believe it was true. In that he sat there, remember, with those blank books, signing away. I'm signing all these executive orders. And somebody zoomed in on them and they were blank, which is blank pages. And I will bet that throughout the entire 4 years, he has signed nothing but blank pages. They've not, obviously, according to Mike Johnson, they lied to him about what this executive order was when it came to the LNG, the natural gas. And he didn't know what he was signing. He had no idea. That's treason. I'm very upset about it. Allison, yes, Trump today signing executive orders today, and he's got so many good ones. I've got a lot of them to go over here with you, and I don't know all of them. I don't know if anyone knows everything that's going on. A lot of these have been hinted to, but I don't think everyone knows exactly what. So I'm going to go into, let's see here. Some of the other things we're going to talk about, by the way, before the end of the show is what's going on with mortgages and your car payments and credit card payments over this insane case that was just decided upon with the Supreme Court. It's pretty crazy stuff taking place. So with these executive orders, that was the Moore versus Alliant Credit Union We're going to be talking about that before the end of the show. Do you have to pay your mortgage payment? We'll find out. And so executive orders, some of the things that he wants to talk about, obviously the January 6 pardons. We know that Donald Trump is going to pardon the nonviolent J6ers, or at least what he considers to be the nonviolent J6ers. He is going to declare an emergency on the southern border. We already know that, a state of emergency. And there's going to be allegedly 11 different executive orders that are going to pertain to the southern border. So we know mass deportation starting immediately. That is, let's see, Paul says it was like Mel Brooks and Blazing Saddles. One of the best movies, by the way, Paul. I just watched that not too long ago, by the way. And let's see, Iron Dome. I don't know if you guys heard about this. We all know we've paid a very good chunk of the money to support Israel in their Iron Dome. We're going to have our own Iron Dome. What do you think about that? We're going to have our own Iron Dome. And I haven't heard how many executive orders will relate to our national security and our defense of our country. I bet it's a few. Out of 200 plus executive orders, I bet that the defense of our country is going to be number one. And who would have ever thought? We used to joke about that. Well, gee, we're paying for Israel's Iron Dome. Where's our Iron Dome? Here we are sitting ducks. Now we're going to have our own Iron Dome. Pretty darn excited about that. Now, he's going to roll back the limits that, of course, Joe Biden created for offshore drilling. We're going to open some new oil and gas leases. We all saw those things coming, of course. And let's see here. He's going to end DEI programs. We've saw that coming, of course. The deep state purge. He's going to have some executive orders that somehow involve purging of the deep state. I think he learned his lesson that he didn't purge enough. He didn't purge enough the first time around. And so therefore he's not going to make the same mistake twice. As a matter of fact, he's not going to probably be making any mistakes this time around because he now knows who to trust and who not to trust. So that'll be interesting. One of the biggest things I think coming out of now I haven't seen obviously what only a small percentage of these 200 plus executive actions. But one of the things that I'm hearing will happen that I think could have a pretty major effect on us is the designation that we're going to start calling the cartels a terrorist organization, similar to what we consider ISIS or Hamas or some of these other groups. We're going to consider the cartels. And I'm hearing that the reason why we're going to do that is that's going to pave the way for us to go into Mexico and fight against the cartels. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who think it is true. And a lot of people saying, you know what, we're all in all of these different countries, policing all these different countries, but we don't step across our southern border and police where all of these drugs are coming from, all of the sex trafficking and the organ harvesting back and forth across our southern border, all these tunnels that have been built. And it wouldn't surprise me, quite honestly. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want to see us in any war, but it wouldn't surprise me if Donald Trump sent some of our troops or a lot of our troops into the southern region and not just Mexico, but throughout Central America, trying to rid these countries of gang activity. We've fought against ISIS over in Syria. We fought against different types of terrorism in other parts of the country. And why not, right there on our southern border? I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want it to happen, but there's a lot of talk about that happening. And let's see, Allison, all federal workers return to office. Thank you for that. Yeah, if you guys know ones that I don't, definitely let me know, because I've been looking, and I've come up with a few, but I certainly don't have them all. That would be fantastic, Allison, because we talked about that a couple weeks ago, where we have all of these federal workers since COVID times are not working in their offices. They're all working from home. Yet we still pay to maintain those buildings. There's a lot of government buildings where there's no people at. No people. And I can't remember how the statistics, if it was like, what was it? Was it 8,500 people not working in government buildings, or was it something else? But I know we were spending millions of dollars in maintenance, in utility bills, and different types of fees to maintain these buildings where no one worked. So a lot of government workers are probably not going to be very happy about that. And Jay says, killing the EV mandate. That's right. Now that one I did know about, the Green New Deal. Here they all say, oh, we're going to have all electric cars by 2035. Not anymore. We've got a big a big plan to disrupt that 30-year agenda. In fact, I would say they could just forget about the 30-year agenda. Now, I know Bill Gates met with Donald Trump in the past couple weeks, and I know that Bill Gates said, "Oh, it was a really good meeting. I really like Donald Trump." Well, I'll tell you what, Bill Gates, your time is coming. Your reign of playing with Mother Nature needs to be over. So I will be interested to see how Trump tackles weather manipulation, HARP, CERN, all of these different things that we all talk about, chemtrails, and not to mention what we're going to be told. Think about that, what we're going to be told. There's going to be a lot. And Paul says that's great that we'll have the dome, but you know as well as I do that they won't blow up a country they want to take. They'll do it from inside by shutting down all of the utility grids first. We will implode from that point, except for the ones that can live off the grid and off the land. You're right. And the threat, unfortunately, is no longer across our southern border. It's here inside of our country. Our enemies are from within. Not only are they working in our own government, the biggest enemy of all, but they are also living in our neighborhoods and working at our companies, and they're already here. So yes, we have to purge them first, then build the Iron Dome, right? You think of the analogy of you've got the fox in your chicken coop. Well, you're not going to build the dome around the fox and the chickens, right? You're going to get the fox out first, then you're going to build your dome. So that's why we've got a lot to work on between now and then. Cindy, Elon is going to take care of that. Man, Musk is moving along at a very quick pace. He's going to have an office at the White House, as we know. And I think that's a great idea. I know there may be people who have problems with that. I don't. I think he will serve fantastically as an advisor and, of course, as a member of DOGE. But Vivek Ramaswamy, I heard, is out. Oh, I haven't heard any official statement. Maybe you guys have. I didn't really look. But I heard, at least the non-official story, was that he is not getting along well with staff. Now, staff, I'm not sure who they mean by staff. Is it Elon? Is it other members of the staff? I don't know. But that's just rumor. That's just hearsay. I haven't seen anything official. We'll find out eventually, or maybe some of you already know. But Vivek Ramaswamy, I've heard, is no longer part of the DOGE team, which is upsetting. I really like the guy. I was hoping, but you know what? They will find something else for him to do. Trust me, he will still be involved if that story is true. Charles says a majority of commercial real estate in general is still vacant. The commercial real estate market was hit so hard during COVID because there are still sitting so many empty buildings, so many people, not working in their office, and a lot of these companies not able to pay their lease on these different commercial buildings. It hit that market really hard. I see a rebound. Interest rates still high for, personal mortgages and loans and so on. But, I see that coming, but I don't think that's going to be right away. Elon Musk even made a statement yesterday, and he said, we're facing a very serious time. We are a very near to bankrupt country, and we really have to start bringing the money in. We have to cut out all this excess spending because we've got some problems. And I think we all agree that we knew that was coming because the Biden administration, they fudged the records. Remember cooking the books? We talked about that a couple months ago, where they were found. Remember the unemployment rates? They were calculating them in a way that wasn't accurate. I don't remember the exact percentage they were off, but it was quite a bit. At least, what was it, 20%? They had undercounted the numbers, so the unemployment rate was really much higher than what they were reporting. And then we know the people coming across southern border, much higher than they're reporting. And let's see, Kim says those electric cars left behind with the fires in California are causing some serious issues. Yes, as well as all the smart meters. A lot of utility companies I'm hearing are possibly going to be sued over smart meters because smart meters are a lot like smart cars. And they also cause fires and can be very hazardous to your home. So that's something I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot in the future. And Robert Vivek will announce running for Ohio governor. I did hear that, and I hope he is successful in that. And Jay says they were underreporting every statistic. Yes, they were. They were cooking the books the entire 4 years. And now we're left with the mess to clean up. And Donald Trump is going to clean that mess up. If there's anything he does, he is a good businessman. And he has taken several unsuccessful companies that were in bankruptcy or were about to close. He purchased them. He reorganized. Those are some of those bankruptcies you heard about. They were corporate bankruptcies that he filed to reorganize so that these people could keep their jobs. And he's a fantastic business person. He will turn us around, no question about that. But it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. We're going to have to be very patient when it comes to finances, because there's a lot going on. That's for sure. A lot going on when it comes to finances. Secrets, something else I wanted to get into. There's a lot of information that's going to be revealed. And I think that this is a lot of what put Donald Trump at risk. And as well as Kash Patel and Elon Musk and a lot of other folks who are part of what will be the truth telling. Trump has vowed. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'll just play the video for you. I was kind of back and forth if I played it, but it's only 30 seconds long.
As a first step toward restoring transparency and accountability to government, we will also reverse the overclassification of government documents, and in the coming days, we are going to make public remaining records relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and other topics of great public interest. It's all going to be released, Uncle.
Okay, so that is a very telling statement. We've always known this was coming. There's no secret. They've always told us they were going to release all this information. Now, I heard it's going to come in 2 waves. We'll see how it all officially plays out. But I heard that first, they're going to tell us about the classified documents, as Donald Trump just stated himself. When it comes to John Kennedy, when it comes to Robert Kennedy, we're going to get that information, as well as what happened to Martin Luther King Jr. That's the first rollout. The second rollout, I heard, is going to be the list of the Epstein client list, the P. Diddy party list. I heard that's going to be the second rollout. I heard that we're going to probably find out the classified information on Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr., probably tomorrow. I heard either yesterday or tomorrow. And then in a couple of, or yesterday, I heard today or tomorrow. And then in a couple of days later they're going to release this information about the Epstein and the P. Diddy client list. Now, will they? We don't know, but that's what we're told. And I don't think Donald Trump would say it if he wasn't going to do it. But now brace yourselves. Just brace yourselves, because I know there's a lot of people who are thinking, oh my God, what's going to be released? What are they going to say? But if you talk to people who've already seen, there are people who say they've seen the classified documents already. It was nothing really all that mind-blowing in the classified documents, because I can guarantee you, the government got rid of the most telling information long ago. They're not going to let that stuff sit around in a file for somebody like Donald Trump to come around and talk about. So I don't think our minds are going to be too blown over what we hear. But other people might be a little, more confused about it than we are, might be a little bit more surprised than we are. Because I think we pretty much are on top of things as it is. And Lori says, does anyone else think it's strange that we see and hear more about Musk than Vance? I think it's very strange. Lori, I think it's very strange. As a matter of fact, I almost totally forgot about Vance, quite honestly, until yesterday. And I felt kind of silly that we never talk about Vance, JD Vance. And I don't know why. He's just not been in the spotlight at all. It's very much been Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Now, I don't really know that means anything. I think that JD Vance is going to be a fantastic vice president. And, the vice president typically is not in the forefront like the president is. And JD Vance, he doesn't have the persona and the following that Elon Musk does. And I think that's part of it. And, Elon Musk is a single guy. He's hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. He's buddies with Trump. JD Vance is married. He has children. He has a family. He has other things he's doing. So he's just probably not as available to just hang out. I can't imagine his wife would be like, oh yeah, go on to Mar-a-Lago and hang out there for the next month or two while we wait for the inauguration. And Joe says Melania Trump is the new Wonder Woman. Yes, she is. And Dottie says 9/11. That's the one I want. That's the one I'm most interested also, Dottie. And he has said he's going to release some information about 9/11, but I haven't heard as much about that lately. Paul, it scared you when they said that yesterday. Now you truly do fear for his life. That's that and Kash Patel, because man, Kash Patel is going to release some information. He's talked about quite a bit, and that also makes me fearful for all of their lives. Even JD Vance, even though we don't see a lot of him, he's still there. He had a big party this weekend at his home. I heard it was a very beautiful, classic party. A lot of people attending. I saw some photos and video from his parties. He's, very much still around, very much part of the Trump administration. Vice president, again, though, they kind of take a back seat to a lot of these different things. And he's probably tying up loose ends. He's got to move. He's got to be in Washington, D.C. He's got a lot going on. But yeah, he hasn't been quite to the forefront quite as much. And let's see here. Dottie says it's like Trump is preparing Musk, or the other way around. And Allison says mainstream media talks about Elon more than Vance. I think that's because Elon is just, he's an interesting character. He really is. He always was. You kind of see him as kind of eccentric, kind of this mastermind behind all of these different companies and different ideas. And I think that's why. And Jay says traditionally the VP become near ghosts anyway. That is true. I mean, even Kamala Harris was, well, I think we know why, completely non-existent during the entire Biden administration, as we know, till the very end when they thought they wanted to promote her. Paul says all the Democrats have to do is cast doubt in terms of who Trump is going to and the roles, that's going to start the administration from within. Disintegrate this administration. Yeah, I think so. I think that there's going to be a big purge of a lot of folks that need to go, that will go. A lot of people are leaving ahead of time. It's going to be a really big week, and Donald Trump, he's got a lot holding over him. And as Allison had mentioned earlier, and I shared this on social media yesterday, these vehicles that Donald Trump, part of the motorcade, they are equipped with a electronic warfare system that will detect drones, because the world is constantly changing, and drones are such a big threat. We talked about that guy from the Wagner Group who crossed our southern border, who was, by the way, released into our country, who was caught with a drone and 2 passports and some money. And that he's got his drone. Who knows where he is, and who knows where the bazillion others just like him are. And I do think that a drone attack is probably our biggest worry, quite honestly, because, the limitations that we have against fighting against a drone, you take a drone and it's over the motorcade or over the inauguration in the rotunda, and particularly back when it was outside. Now, I know they claim they took it inside because of the weather, and that could be the case. Trump said he wants to make sure all his supporters, are not in danger, for fear of being cold, in these extreme temperatures. But at the same time, it is much more secure to be inside, much more secure. So I'm glad they made that move inside. And let's see here. Lori says, I think that there is a portion of voters that was hoping that Vance would play a good role in the administration. He is likable, and he will. Lori, I have no doubt that JD Vance is going to be right there. I think he'll be more in the forefront than Kamala Harris was with Joe Biden. I think we'll see more of him and hear more of him. And I think Donald Trump will come to rely on him a lot more than what we think. And, Elon Musk is a busy guy too. He's not going to be able to get too involved with the companies that he has, because they would consider that to be a conflict of interest. So we'll see how far that goes. But, it is interesting, though, the security. I would think that the security right now taking place at the White House is, in Washington, D.C. is just unprecedented. It is. I was watching videos of the military checkpoints, and, they're very careful who is in. They've got so many different, they have a satellite set up, by the way, that can watch the entire area so that they can see any anomalies. They have helicopters and drones flying over to look for anomalies. They did that grid. We talked about this last week. They had helicopters that were flying in a grid pattern across the area, which is kind of an interesting story, being that drones were accused of that not long ago. But they were looking for any type of radioactivity, any type of signal that something changes before the inauguration and during the inauguration ceremony. So there's a lot going on with security. Of course, they deputize 25,000 various law enforcement officers to patrol the streets, and it's pretty wild. They have a lot going on. You can tell that they are very, very worried. And hopefully, to any terrorist that's out there, domestic or otherwise, I hope that they would take a look at the security that's taking place and think, you know what, I'm not even going to try. But at the same time, we tell ourselves these people don't care. They're going to end their lives anyway. So what difference does it make to them? As long as they can kill a few people before they die, what difference does it matter? But the drones worry me, because there's only so much you can do, with a drone coming around. So I want to touch base on that. I'm trying to think I know there were some other things I wanted to get to before I talk about this case that, let's see here. Oh, one of the things I wanted to throw out there, under the Biden administration, I don't know how Trump is going to handle avian flu. Now we got that HMPV, I think it's called. We talked about that a month or so ago, that was starting to spread around. Under the Biden administration, it spent $590 million to start working on a vaccine for avian flu, for bird flu. So I don't know where that's going to play out. I don't know. Will Donald Trump maximize that? Will he say, I don't know who's conducting, these, who's going to be creating the vaccine, but hopefully Donald Trump will say, okay, well, let's go ahead and give some money and create a vaccine, but let's make sure it's something that works. Let's make sure it's not something that's dangerous to people. Speaking of dangerous to people, I know Robert Kennedy Jr. has been talking a lot. I still don't understand what's going on with this, but he said that all McDonald's restaurants were going to close on the 20th. Well, today is the 20th. Are McDonald's closed? I don't know. And I'm thinking that maybe it has something to do with seed oils. I know Steak and Shake made that announcement over the weekend where they have gotten rid of all seed oils and now they will use tallow, as their cooking oil. And I know that they expect McDonald's to do the same thing, as well as all fast food restaurants, being that tallow is much healthier than seed oils, especially amongst all those reports lately that all these seed oils are causing some of these turbo cancers in young people, although I think we can think of an alternative reason also why that could be taking place. And Paul says, I have some friends that went to the inauguration and are having a blast so far. I would too if I were there, but part of me would be looking over my shoulder the whole time. Joe says, for Democrats, this is Black Monday. It is the day of liberation for us, isn't it? Liberation. I am beyond ecstatic about what is taking place today. And again, the inauguration, if you want to watch it, I'm assuming you will and can, if you can. It's going to be at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time is the actual inauguration ceremony, but there's inauguration events all day. Me personally, I could care less about watching the inauguration other than to see the looks on people's faces that don't like him. That's always my favorite part. But I can't wait to see what these executive orders are, especially now, because, man, there's some crazy stuff going on that we really need to watch out for in the coming days. And, Donald Trump, I think that he will also go back and look at these pardons. And you can, nothing is set in stone. There is a possibility that Donald Trump can rescind these pardons. I've heard that there is a legal way to rescind the pardon. So I hope that that's something that he does, and I can't wait to see the faces of the J6ers when they are released. I can't even imagine being held in solitary confinement, and the PTSD these people must have is insane, absolutely insane. And something, Stacey, you're excited about today. Me too. And Karen, I hope you have a good day also. So I'm only going to talk about one more thing before it's time to head out, because there is so much going on today. Oh, I almost forgot. As much as I hate to say this, because tomorrow is going to be such an important day, I will not have a show tomorrow. I have to work from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. And so I will not be around. I probably won't even be on social media other than maybe a short time in the afternoon. Very, very busy day for me tomorrow. But I will be back on Wednesday. Hopefully Colonel Joe Adams from the Washington Guard will be joining me at that time. Now, something I wanted to very quickly go over before it's time to go. This is kind of like your homework, because I'm hoping you guys can decipher this a little bit better than I can. I don't know if you guys heard about this case or not. And if you haven't, look it up. And it's called More versus Alliant Credit Union. Have you heard about this? And it's pretty interesting, in my opinion. And Moore, gosh, what is that guy? Is it Richard Moore? He has all of these videos on TikTok, interestingly enough. And he's been doing these videos for a really long time. And his videos are about the situation where if somebody's coming to repossess your car, if your house is in foreclosure, if you have unpaid credit card debt, his talks are always about how you're not contractually liable to pay that money back because those contracts were made from fiat currency. Fiat currency, of course, being the term of fiat currency is that that's money issued to you from a government, but it's not backed by gold or silver. It is money. It's literally not worth the paper it's written on. And of course, it's subjective. The value of fiat currency is very subjective because it really depends on interest rates, supply and demand, that type of thing, and how much money the government prints. As we know, we've printed an awful lot of money over the past few years. And, I absolutely do believe we're already in a state of hyperinflation and have been in a state of hyperinflation for a long time. We know the value of our dollar is pretty low. At this point, it's gone down drastically over the years. And so this lawsuit came into effect, and it's Moore versus Alliant Credit Union. And what Moore said is that, hey, I don't have to pay for my mortgage. There was a contract made over fiat money. Fiat money is not actual currency. It has no value. It's not backed by gold or silver. Therefore, I don't have to pay it. It's not a legal contract. Well, here's what's interesting is he won. He won his case. It's the wildest thing. This was on January 14th. Moore won. And I watched a bunch of videos of him talking about this case. And this is a really big deal. This is the Supreme Court. Justice Anthony Alito presided over this case. And what they determined was this. This will blow your mind. All forms of fiat currency, that is money issued to you by your government, our dollar system, all forms of fiat currency, which is of course money issued without intrinsic value. It's not backed by gold or silver, legally null and void, effective immediately. Think about that. That's really strange. All forms of fiat currency, money issued without intrinsic value, is legally null and void, effective immediately. And people are going crazy on TikTok over this because they're all talking about, okay, well, clearly, if you go on to look at further aspects of the case, some of the things they talk about is, okay, well, contracts are no longer valid. That is the determination of this case, is that now contracts are no longer valid. And it's pretty interesting in some of what came up, in that Moore claimed that, again, if your currency is not backed by gold or silver, it's subjective as to how much it's worth. And that means that your contract is not legal. I cannot believe for the life of me that Justice Alito agreed with him, and that excuse me, and that Moore won this case. It is unprecedented. It is historical. And again, I'm probably not giving it justice explaining it in the way that I am. Let's see here. Charles says it sounds like that sovereign citizen stuff. I don't know. I don't know enough about this case or enough about Moore to really fully understand what's going on. And it's something I'm going to be looking more into. But it doesn't really matter because the Supreme Court decided that he won, that he's right. Now, Kash Patel made a separate statement, and he said, the FBI, the NSA, we're going to be looking into this situation. We're going to try to figure out exactly what took place here, because we don't want a situation where, of course, all of a sudden Americans say, oh, I don't have to pay my car payment. I don't have to pay my mortgage. I don't have to pay my credit cards back, because obviously that'll just throw us into some crazy state of turmoil. So Kash Patel said that he's going to be looking into this case, and that he is going to determine potentially that the only way you don't have to pay back your mortgage or your credit cards or your car payment is if you are already somebody who's trying not to use the fiat currency system. So we'll see. There's a lot that goes into this, but it is a very interesting case, and it is really huge news because I can't believe Moore won. I'm actually shocked by it that Moore won. And it could change the way fiat currency is considered and valued, being, again, it's not backed by gold or silver, which is something we've all talked about many times. So we're going to talk about that. Charles says the swearing in ceremony is live early on Facebook now. On Facebook now. It's only 9 o'clock. How can that be? All right, guys. Well, that is all I have to say today. Again, unfortunately, I will not have a show tomorrow. I don't know. I might be able to replay today's show just for the fun of it, but we'll see what happens. And then I will be back on Wednesday. Hopefully, Colonel Joe Adams will join us. Happy Liberation Day. I'm telling you, what a fantastic day it is. We have all worked so hard to get to the point where we are now. If you joined the show late, again, go back, at least go back far enough to watch the video with Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, talking about how Joe Biden is not the person who is creating these executive orders. Please go back and look at that because it's extremely important. But I do hope you guys all have a great Liberation Day. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. Stay warm out there. I will look forward to talking to you all on Wednesday. I'll be making some posts, hopefully on social media as the day goes on. Today is such a big and historic day. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap.